Hello and welcome back to the second episode of the Blitz Report UK NFL podcast. Callum, how are you doing today?
Doing well, as always. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Ready to get into some NFL talk? We've got a lot of stories to discuss this weekend. We're going to be talking about the main news stories from the week, previewing the upcoming games, giving our predictions. So we'll start off with one of the big news stories, probably the biggest actually. Travis Hunter having season-ending surgery. Um, Would you say it's safe to say that he's been disappointing so far?
I I don't know. I feel like fans expected a lot more than what we've seen of him so far. Um, I like him, and I feel like his receiving really has come on this year. I feel like he had a breakout game at one point, I think, against the Chiefs. Say breakout. He played well there and was starting to make, but he plays both sides of the ball. I feel like we never really, well, people expected it, but I feel like you've got to understand that coming into the NFL obviously takes time sometimes, and different players develop at different rates. I think disappointing, I suppose so. As a number two pick, you expect something. You expect them to hit the ground running, but obviously that's not always the case. And out for the season now is disappointing, and that'll just not help his case at all.
I mean, if we look at stats, it's not looking great. Of course, stats aren't everything. I mean, offense wise, he's played 7 games. He's had 28 receptions, 298 yards, one touchdown. Defensive side of the ball, he's had 15 total tackles, 3 passes defended, and basically nothing else in any stat category. Um, of course, it's going to take him especially a while to adjust to the NFL compared to others. Do you think he needs to just focus in on one, or do you think he long term can do this sort of hybrid role?
I suppose everyone's reckoned he can do the hybrid role, and whenever you see someone mention, should he just pick one? They always get criticism. I think personally, if I was, I suppose, if I was the Jags, personally, I think I'd rather just push him for to be a receiver, just be an out and out receiver, purely because their receiving room isn't great at the moment, and that addition could be good. That could be someone that they look to strengthen in the draft, potentially elsewhere. But yeah, I feel like personally, if that was me, I'd try and maybe get him to play more offense than defense, especially, and potentially maybe just altogether just move him into an out and out receiver as opposed to a hybrid.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with you. And just moving on to another team with a big name wide receiver out with an injury, the Giants. They fired Brian Daboll
Yeah,
within the last few days. Um, I mean, they've had some bad luck. They're 2-8. Yeah, 2-8. Sorry. Um, they have had Scatterbo and Neighbours both out to injuries. Neighbours obviously amazing last year, over 1,200 yards. Um, but you look at the rest of their team, it's looking pretty bleak. I mean, Scatterbo is still their leading rusher, and second in that category is Jackson Dart. So shows how kind of one-dimensional that offense really was this year. Um, what do you think of the Giants really in general?
there's potential. There definitely is potential. I think that you know, well, obviously it's scattered. It feels like that they were going somewhere. There was an optimism around the fan base. I feel like everyone was thinking, look, we're back. We've got a run game. We've got obviously Neighbours, who's one of the best young receivers in the league. I feel like everyone was thinking, yeah, this is a stepping stone for progress for the Giants. But injuries have obviously plagued them. I know there's been criticism of the MetLife field, and that tendency to throw up injuries. But when you've got obviously Darts out with concussion. You've got Neighbours out, you've got Scatterbo out. That's your three best offensive players, and I feel like any team wouldn't be able to deal with that. And put it along with a rebuilding Giants currently. I feel like they're struggling. I feel like Daboll was always under pressure from the beginning of the season, and I feel like Jackson Dart was sort of keeping him there. Although I suppose I think it comes off a little harsh considering the start to the season they had and then the injuries from it. But I feel like it was always sort of a it felt a bit of a matter of time, and I felt like that was always a topic that was surrounding for the last few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with you that it's on the harsher side, considering, these major injuries that we've talked about. And like you said, there was a positive trajectory to them at the start of the season that really they seem to have just forgotten about. I don't
Mm,
know. I mean, Scatbo and Neighbours aren't going to be back for a while, granted, but you get those guys back and you give Daboll a bit of a chance to build, I think. Like, he was such a highly coveted coach coming into the Giants. Um, and I think it's a bit too soon, personally. Yeah, I just don't really. I don't feel he's been given a fair chance with the best team that he could have. Um, and he's tried to build it, and he's got the players in. It's not his fault they've been injured. No, I don't. I doubt anyone could really do anything with what he has left over. So I'm not really too sure on it personally. And just sticking on the Giants, Jackson Dart has been evaluated for concussion, I believe,
yeah,
for I think the
yeah,
fourth time already this year. He needs to stop headbutting Scatterboo pre-game. But they've chosen, supposedly, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but it looks like Jameis Winston is going to start over Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson, obviously someone you're very familiar with as a Broncos fan.
yep.
What do you think the reasoning behind that is?
I feel like Russ has stepped into a few games this year, and he's just not made a mark of what you'd hope for from an ex Super Bowl winning quarterback. I know he's had struggles at Pittsburgh, obviously Denver, and I feel like it was just sort of there seemed to be a growing frustration around the Giants with Russ. I feel like the fans weren't too pleased with him and expected better. And I feel like yeah, I don't know. I feel like everyone loves James Winston. It'll obviously make for entertaining games, and I feel like the Giants have potentially thought, well, if we're going on a losing run anyway, why not have some fun with it? Why not?
Mhm.
Why not? And James Winston, there's no better. Even if on the field it's not bad, the clips off the field will be generational. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. And James Winston, what a bloke! I feel like that'll be interesting. We'll be able to see what the sort of peak of the offense and what the ceiling of the offense is essentially with someone so good with a long ball, so good with a deep ball. There'll definitely be offensive yards. Just depends how many interceptions along the way. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be exciting for sure.
I do think it'll be exciting. And I agree with you. Maybe it's a potential sort of, like we've got nothing to lose type scenario. Like they're not gonna make the playoffs really or anything. There's no point winning 6 or 7 games getting a rubbish draft pick. But I think there must have been something go on because Russ wasn't bad in Pittsburgh last year. Like he had a decent season, and I still think, Winston is one of those guys you chuck in as like a see what happens sort of guy.
Yeah,
He's like what he is by this point. Um, but with Russ, I mean, we know what he was. He still has, I think, a little bit left in the tank to be just a bit more of a polished quarterback than Winston is. But like you said, maybe they're just going for a sort of like gun ho, like see what happens
yeah,
offense and
yeah.
try and get a better draft pick.
Mm.
Um, Next talking point, we're going to go with a big name, Jair Alexander. He's kind of fallen away a bit in the last couple of years due to injuries and apparently other things because he's apparently contemplating stepping away from football. He's contemplating retirement. So they've placed him on I think it is called like the retired slash something list. Um, and he cites mental and physical health concerns as his reason for doing so. I feel like he's somebody who, even just 2 years ago, was one of the premier cornerbacks in the league. Obviously, went to where was it? He went to the Ravens, and then just got traded to Philly for a late round pick swap, and now seems like he could be done. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the thing. It's the mental side and the physical side. I don't know whether it's just he feels like he's not playing his best football at the minute and he'd rather better himself before coming back, or whether there is, something going on. It's like, just got to give him his time, give him his space, and obviously everyone wants him to come back. It'd be great to see him back playing. But like you say, yeah, just a few years ago, if you talk cornerbacks, you talk Joe Alexander. He was the one. He was always the guy you'd speak about in cornerback sorry conversations, and I feel like yeah, it's disappointing from a sporting aspect, but yeah, we just hope that he can come back. And obviously, being on the Eagles, they've got a great corner room as it is anyway with Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Their defense is great, so I feel like he could end up being a good part of that team if he comes back later in the season, or if not, we'll just see where he is. And but yeah, it's a big loss, and I feel like it'd be good to see him back.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that cornerback room, like granted, we said he struggled with injuries a bit and been a bit more inconsistent over the last couple of years, but he definitely add to that team and help them sort of get back to the heights that they were at last year. But yeah, we wish him all the best and hopefully see him back one day. So we're going to try a new segment here. We've called it, what's the exact name for it? Two in, two
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
Um, so it's sort of I imagined it as a, out of the top teams, who are the contenders and who
yeah.
are the pretenders, so to speak. Um, so hit me with your first team that you're in on.
Well, I took it as the two in two out. I thought I'd go for teams that potentially not on the list of the best teams in the NFL at the moment, but two teams that are
Mhm,
in form. Obviously, so my first pick was the Ravens. No, well,
mhm.
I suppose they've had a bad run recently. Obviously, so many injuries on both offense and defense. Lamar was back this week. Who had an average sort of game, 176 passing yards, 36 rushing, touchdown, beat the Vikings. So solid win. And yeah, I just gone for the Ravens. I feel like they've now got a run of the Browns, the Jets, and the Bengals. So there's three wins there potentially, and
Yeah.
then that they're already a 4-5 record. 3 wins, 7-5. Season's looking good. Playoffs, and then if they can hit their peak, players returning for the playoffs, there's no reason why they can't go and make a deep run, which didn't look like it when they were 1-5 at the start of the year.
I totally agree with you on that one. I've written down my two teams and then I've written bonus mention Ravens
Yeah.
because they popped into my head and I thought I haven't got enough time to really prep a load of stuff on them here, but I completely agree with you. They had an awful start, obviously with Lamar out, it's never going to be easy, but he's come back and they look like the Ravens again, and I feel like people are still thinking about that start and have counted them out completely, but they're definitely a team that I could see, being. I mean, we have them every year as Super Bowl contenders, and until they really do it, then you're going to have your doubts. But they're definitely a team that could make a deep playoff run. Like, there's no reason why that wouldn't be the case. Um, I feel like mine aren't particularly groundbreaking here. The first one I've gone for is the Lions.
Yeah.
Um, I've just gone for teams that I think, with good records, like the ones who can win the Super Bowl and the ones who
Mm.
can't. I've gone for the Lions. Jared Goff I've put quietly elite production again,
Yeah.
sort of the theme with his last 4 or 5 years. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, undoubtedly, but you still don't really put him in that upper echelon. But he's had 2,235 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 3 picks so far, so you can't argue with that. You got Jameer Gibbs, one of the premium running backs in the league. He's closing in on 1,000 all-purpose yards. He's got 12 total touchdowns. And his rushing yards, I believe, is around 650 so far. Might not be, the Jonathan Taylor, the sort of level that we might expect from Jameer, but you pair that with David Montgomery, and their rushing yards so far are comfortably over 1,000. And I think that's a huge thing for them. And my one kind of wild card for the Lions is Jameson Williams,
Mm.
who I loved him coming out of college. I thought he was incredible. And I'm not sure if you remember, but they took him in the first round, I believe,
Mm.
and he was still coming off a major injury, like he wasn't fit,
Yeah.
and he hadn't played for a while, and they still took that risk on him because when I was watching his college tape, I was like, I don't know how this guy isn't like. It was literally only the injury for me
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
really derailed him a little bit, but for me, he's got so much potential and he's starting to show it a little bit more. I could still see a little bit more from him, but he strikes me as the type who, if they were to make another deep playoff run, could really excel in that
Mm.
and kind of push them over the line.
Yeah. No, well, funny you say that. The Lions are mine. There's
Hmm.
like you say, there's no prizes for picking this one, but them the most exciting team to watch in football for me by far. If ever as a neutral see a game on, it's realistically it's the Lions that you watch. And the thing that I found interesting, the reason why I've got them in, obviously not just because they're a great team. But Dan Campbell was calling the plays this last week. He took over from John Morton, the OC, and just said that something was amiss, something they weren't firing how they wished to. And I mean, it didn't go badly, did they? They had 500 plus yards on offense, and in a range of three touchdowns for Goff, and then there was three rushing touchdowns for both Jameer and Montgomery. And yeah, no, they looked I mean, I thought they always looked a great team. I didn't think something was amiss, but clearly something along the lines they've decided that it'd be better if Dan Campbell takes back over the reins. The last time he called players was before Ben Johnson come in. Ben Johnson joined in 2022, and that was when he gave the plays over to Johnson. He's picked them back up, and they've done well. And just on Jameer Gibbs, actually, um, the stat that the record that he's in at the moment, he's top five for scrimmage touchdowns before turning 24, and he's got 41. The leader is no other than Barry Sanders with 47. So he's six off, and he's got
Yeah.
until the end of the season, till March to break the record. I feel like it's only a matter of time before he breaks that record and he becomes the best, well, the first, the most touchdowns for a running back since before turning 24, which is obviously a great achievement. And he's probably got years left in the tank. And I feel like he's one of those where you've got to watch out for. The Lions have the Eagles coming up next in Philadelphia, and that'll be a great test. If we see the Lions really put on a show against a great defense in Philly, then there's no reason why they shouldn't be probably Super Bowl favourites to win it this year. So yeah, that's mine. What about you?
My final team, I've gone again fairly obvious. I've gone for the Seahawks. I think they are genuinely that sort of caliber this season. I think the addition for them of Rashid Shaheed just takes that offense up to a whole new level. I mean, they already had obviously JSN and Cooper Cup there. Um, but yeah, adding someone like Shaheed just gives you so many options on offense and a couple of decent running backs as well. They've got their secondary is excellent. You know, going back to the Legion of Boom days, they've always been renowned for that. But they've got Tariq Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, Kobe Bryant, and Nick Eamon-Wari, who they drafted in this past draft, has been playing pretty well for them. I think the one thing that would maybe stop them is an elite pass rusher. They got Leonard Williams, who I think is on about 5.5 sacks for the year so far. But they got Byron Murphy in the middle. So you'd be hard pressed to say their D line was bad, but I think to win a championship, you need that sort of elite level guy, like a Miles Garrett, a TJ Watt, even though none of them have come close to winning anything. But, you know, you need somebody like that. Um, so, who are your two outs?
My two outs are the Jaguars and the Commanders. Different reasons. The Jags have lost three of their last four games, which they obviously won against Las Vegas when they won 30-29. But that's still not a great time. They played against the Texans last game, and the Texans have struggled this year. It was a Davis Mills led Texans, obviously with CJ Stroud out with after his injury in the Broncos game, and yeah, two fumbles from Trevor Lawrence, one touchdown, one interception, 158 pass yards, which obviously the Texans are a good defense, so take nothing away from them. But I just feel like they started so promisingly. They started 4-1, and their schedule coming up as well is one of the things where it's like it's touch and go whether they can be a playoff team. They've got two games against the Colts. They've got to play the Chargers and the Broncos before the end of the season, which just feels. But it's a mix really, because then they've got to play the Titans twice and the Jets. So like you could easily see them sneaking in a wild card, and it could naturally come across as harsh on them. But I feel like just in terms of their latest sort of form isn't what they showed at the start, and that's why they're one of my outs essentially.
Oh, I would agree with you on that one. My first out, I have gone for. Seems silly to say. My first out, I've gone for the Patriots. Um, they've won seven on the bounce. I'm well aware of how good they are. Right? Don't get me wrong. Stephon Diggs, I think, is coming back. He hasn't necessarily had the yards, but he's had three touchdowns in his last three games. Drake May is playing amazingly, and I think he could have potential to be this year's version of Jaden Daniels. That sort of guy. But I just don't think he has the supporting cast around him yet. I think they're obviously going to make the playoffs, and they're going to be a very high seed. But I just don't think that team is built yet to go deep into the playoffs. I think outside of really Drake May, like there's not no one else who I look at and I'm like, wow, they are a superstar. And I think you need at least two or three of those on a team that's going to make a deep playoff run. Um, but I mean, yeah, Drake May, 2,500 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks, and he's top three in completion percentage, yards, and touchdowns. Like, it's hard to argue with that. But when your quarterback's playing that well, it can mask over some of the cracks. So I know that's a bit of a bold one, and you wait for my next one because they're a bit of a bold one as well. But who's your next one?
Well, I was just going
The
to
oh,
touch
sorry,
on that. I think
the
that
Commanders.
yeah, it is the Qantas, but I was just going to touch on the Patriots. I feel like yes, they don't have an established, let's say, um, a supporting cast. But I mean, you look at the performances at last game. Trevion Henderson, obviously rookie this year, had a real breakout game, 147 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Got to the point where his final one, he was wondering whether to go down or not at his final rush touchdown. But yeah, I think that's a bit harsh. You got Kyle Williams, obviously another rookie who 72-yard touchdown last game. Yeah, I feel like I see what you mean. I do see what you mean, whether they could be a contender or not. But I feel like they're definitely going to be a playoff team, and I feel like Drake May's playing out of his skin. Drake May's playing really well, and I feel like he's really showing the potential that he had from college. Obviously, he didn't start when he came in his rookie year, and since he's taken that job over, I think he's been brilliant. His deep ball is one of the best in the league already. Yeah, but yeah, moving on. Mine was the Commanders. Obviously, it's Jaden Daniels less Commanders. We've got no real indication yet on his return. They didn't put him on IR, but I feel like that injury didn't look good at all, and I feel like
Yeah, it's going to be a
he's going to be
while,
out
isn't it?
for a bit of time. They've lost the last 5 in a row. Although, having said that, their games have been against Kansas City, Seattle, and Detroit, which are not easy games at all. So you can't really judge them off of that. Obviously, it's Marcus Mariota leading the offense. I just feel like they're missing something. I'm not sure what, but I feel like like Traylon Burks leaded their yards last game and receiving. I feel like he's an interesting one. They've obviously got Deebo Samuel. I just think they need something else to take them to the next level. I mean, they've struggled with injuries as well, but they'd be my out. Yeah, who'd be your second?
You're not going to be happy. I don't know if
I
you
had
want
a
to move your
feeling
head a
that
bit.
was going
If
to
you
be
want to
that.
move your head a bit to the side there, so
Yeah,
everyone can see
yeah,
who my next pick is. Um, the other team in the NFL to have won 7 on the bounce makes me sound stupid,
yeah.
but these wins are not blowout wins over the Chiefs. These wins are not blowout wins over the Eagles. You know, 6 of their 8 wins have been by one score. They beat the Jets by 2 points. They beat the Giants by 1 point, and they had a one-score game against the Titans, who are 3 of the worst 5 teams in football comfortably.
Yeah.
Just about scraped past them. Bo Nix is playing well. Don't get me wrong. 2,126 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 8 picks is by no means bad, but it's by no means elite. I wouldn't say. Um, it's the same thing again, really. I don't think the supporting cast is good enough. J.K. Dobbins is having a good year, but
He's injured now
he's
for the
J.K.
foreseeable.
Dobbins. Oh, is
He
he?
is.
I
He
didn't
is.
know
Yeah.
that.
He's not been placed on the IR just yet, but he's had a second opinion on his injury foot from a hip drop tackle against Las Vegas on Thursday. And yeah, now we've not got J.K. Dobbins. RJ Harvey looks to lead the receiving team, so we'll see whether that was a good second round pick. He's been good this year. He's been a sort of like the Joker card that Sean Payton always goes on about. I feel like he's he's been involved. But yeah, so yeah, J.K. Dobbins is injured. Yeah, so carry on.
But even if Dobbins was there, it'd be
Mm.
exciting to see RJ Harvey let him loose a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
But I don't think J.K. Dobbins, he's not Saquon, he's not Jameer Gibbs. Um, and then Nick Benito, Jonathan Cooper, both having very good years. Benito 9.5 sacks, Jonathan Cooper 7.5. But your first rounder come in last year, Jade Barron. You correct me if I'm wrong, but just looking purely at stats, I can't see much of note.
Not really.
And yeah,
He's played
I just
occasionally.
think the
Go on.
sorry, Karen.
Yeah, he's played occasionally. Um, He's been okay. I mean, against the Eagles, he had a good stop to well, I think that was in the final drive of theirs to hold momentum. But yeah, no, he's been okay. But with Pat Satan out, he's starting to play a bit more, so we might see a bit more from him. But yeah, carry on.
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. It's just I just don't think the team is at that level, and I think their record is a bit kind of it really flatters them is what I will say. I'm sorry because I do like the Broncos, but
Yeah,
I just don't think they're quite at that level yet. But
yeah.
moving on, we've selected 4 games to do a sort of more in-depth preview on. So I will start off with the Bills against the Buccaneers. What are your thoughts on that one?
That'll be an interesting game. Interesting game. Two great quarterbacks, obviously Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield. Um, Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because Bucks have had a bit of a tough time as of late. Injuries have hit them. Obviously, Egbuka was out for a bit. Other receivers have struggled. Bucky Irvin's not been playing for a few weeks, so I feel like the Bucks aren't at full strength, but they showed what they could be at the start of the season. And yeah, the Bills would obviously want to get back on track after their game against the Dolphins, which they ended up getting beaten by the Dolphins, which was really really disappointing from a Bills standpoint. They're now 6-3. Um, and yeah, they've got to really look to rebuild, and there's a good opportunity here. It'll be good to see them get back to winning ways. And I mean, there's talent all over the Bills side. They just need to try and get it moving again.
Yeah, like you said, they're both sitting at 6-3, but their 2 losses very different ones. I mean, both the AFC East teams, but the Dolphins and the Patriots are very different teams. Um, yeah, I think it'll be an interesting one. I think it's 2 of the better teams in the NFL. I think the Bucks are a little bit underrated. I would sort of put them in that same category as the Patriots, the Broncos, like they're very good, but just something isn't quite there. They're not championship caliber, I don't think. But have you got a prediction for who you think is going to come out on top?
Prediction: I'm going to predict the Bills. I'm going to go the Bills in probably a tight game, I'd imagine. The Bills have a tendency to sometimes just make it really easy for them, like against the Chiefs when they won by 2 scores. And then you've got games like the Dolphins, so a bit of inconsistency this season, but I can see the Bills getting back to new heights, back they were previously, and I feel like yeah, they're gonna go well.
I would agree with you on that one. I think the Bills just edge it on that one. Um, our next game, we've got the Rams against the Seahawks. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, a good game in the division, and one that could end up telling the tale for the number one seed of their division. I mean, um, Seahawks obviously we spoke about on the previous episode. Seahawks are and earlier actually they're a really good side. Darnold, Smith and Jigba and co. They're very good defensively. They're solid as well, and I feel like yeah, they're a great team. But talking about the Rams, they're playing really well. They've also got Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford, who's having yet another good year. Um, Potentially an MVP shouts. I'd say I think Matthew Stafford's played exceptionally. Always goes for plenty of yards, and Kyron Williams is starting to um, show what he can do rushing wise, and he's hitting consistently good yards, touchdowns. So yeah, it's a really exciting Rams team when you clock in like Ferguson, rookie tight end. I feel like it's all coming together, and I feel like they're 2 teams that I honestly probably well obviously I'm gonna have to give a prediction, but it's one of those that you can't really call. I think I'm gonna go with the Seahawks by 3. Field goal decides it.
Right.
I'm gonna go with. What about you?
I would agree with you on the Seahawks. Just looking at some history, they've both won 4 games in a row. So they're both obviously in great form. So one of those losing streaks is going to be snapped. Um, it's obviously like you said, a divisional matchup. It's a huge game, and I think this is the first time they meet this season. So we're going to see them against each other further down the line, which could have even bigger implications. I think they're obviously the 2 best teams in that division. Um, but yeah, I would agree with you that I think the Seahawks are going to just edge it. So we're all in agreement so far. which brings us on to one that I feel like you're gonna feel differently about to me: the Broncos and the Chiefs.
Mm. I
Start me off on that one.
I am gonna back the Broncos, obviously. But I think it's going to be an interesting game. And it's going to be a good marker as to where we're at. Um, Obviously, 7 game win streak is exceptional, and yes, they've been by small margins, which obviously wouldn't be as preferred. But we sort of had a mini bye, if you like, coming off Thursday night to Sunday night, which is, and then we only play 1 game in the next or like the 23 days period because we then go into our bye next week. I feel like potentially that Bo Nix and Sean Payton have had a bit of time to try and tweak and improve on whatever's missing at the moment in that offense. I mean, it's again talking about inconsistency. Broncos are a team that lack inconsistency. Like obviously, Cowboys defense isn't that great, but and obviously had a few injuries, but we did really well against them, came out firing at all times. But then you've got games like the Giants where it took until the fourth quarter. Yes, got the win in the end, and it was a great win. Um, Bo Nix shows that potential, and it's definitely in him. And I 100% back him to do well. He's done well against the Chiefs in his career so far. Last time we beat him 38-0, but that was or 38 was a high margin, but that was with their backups in the last game of the season. But the time before that, Broncos only lost by a blocked field goal, and I feel like there's definitely potential. Obviously, no J.K. Dobbins, who's a really efficient rusher, and I feel like he's going to be a massive miss. But yeah, no, I'm going to go the Broncos. Not to take anything away from the Chiefs. The Chiefs obviously got Rasheed Rice back. They're back to their best. They're firing. But I feel like I'm going to just edge it to the Broncos, me.
We're gonna have our first disagreement of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
Um, I've written down here Broncos have of course won 7 in a row, but for previously mentioned reasons, I think, as you said, this will be the real test for them. I think, and you guys have been good against the Chiefs in the past, so I wouldn't be completely shocked if you guys went on and won. But I feel like it could be a bit of a bit of they could get exposed.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Um, and even still, your record's going to be good,
Mm.
but and you're a playoff team, obviously. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Chiefs on this one because if we have any, which there won't be, listeners from our old podcast, um, I always used to say that until the Chiefs give me a reason to bet against them, and honestly, the Super Bowl last year kind of is that in a sense. But I just think the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are a better team all round, despite the records. And that brings us on to our final game: Eagles against the Lions. Yeah, tell me your thoughts on that one.
Eagles, Lions, again, as mentioned with when I said about the Lions, it's going to be an interesting offense versus defense sort of style game. Um, like I said, the Eagles were only involved in a 10-7 game against the Packers last time out. Um, but and they're not really firing as much as they would have hoped to as Super Bowl champions on offense. Frustration for the likes of AJ Brown. And well, I think that the Lions will definitely see if Lions end up either a blowout win or win by a comfortable margin. I think there's definitely the case for Lions to shoot up straight to favoritism for the Super Bowl. And yeah, I think I would personally have the Lions winning that one.
Yeah, I've got the same view on that one. Like you mentioned, AJ Brown been disappointing. Even Saquon,
Mm,
it's going to be hard to match last season. But just that whole team, just something hasn't looked quite right. They've still got a decent record. Don't get me wrong, but they haven't looked convincing. At least when I've watched them. And 10-7 against the Packers the other day, like that'd be an interesting team to talk about potentially next time, the Packers, because
yeah,
I think they're in a sort of similar situation where they started really well and then kind of fell off. But yeah, I just don't think the Eagles are. I think even though their records are similar, these two teams, um, the Lions have impressed me a lot more. They're blowing teams out of the water when they're on form, and I just think they've got more in every facet of the game than the Eagles do at this point, which you wouldn't have imagined a year ago necessarily. But we're both going Lions on
both
that
going
one,
Lions, yeah, yeah. And talking
and
about predictions, I've got them written down here. So we're going to predict a little segment where we'll try and top them off at the end of the season, and see where our predictions ranked. we're just going to go winners of the games, say a point for each, and then yeah. So first of all, we're going to do quick fire. We've got on Thursday Night Football your Jets versus the New England Patriots. Who do you think your winner is?
Patriots by not that many, as I think not as many as people think, but I think still a fair few.
Yeah, so you've got Patriots. I would agree. It's got to be the Patriots, hasn't it? Washington at Miami.
Um, Miami is struggling, as a Washington, but I still think Washington have got enough. Although Dolphins are coming off a good win, so spirits will be high, but I still think Washington's a much better team.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Washington as well. Just thinking about it, yeah, I feel like I was harsh on where they've got Marcus Mariota still playing quarterback, but they've still got a good run game. They've still got a few receivers. I think they'll probably just about win. Then we got Carolina at Atlanta.
It's not a great game, is it? I'm gonna go the Falcons on that one. I think.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't seen enough from the Panthers over the last, 3 years to really fill me with any confidence, and I think the Falcons have got a bit more of an upward trajectory than they do. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Falcons on that.
Well, we're agreeing again because I think the Falcons. I mean, Carolina are a weird team to be. What are they, 5-5, which is a really interesting record considering the games that they beat the Packers, for example.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think the Falcons have a bit too much. I can imagine Bijan Robinson playing well. Obviously they got Rico Dowdle, who's been unbelievable as of the last few weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'd go the Falcons. I'd go the Falcons. And
It's going to be a boring segment if we keep agreeing with
it
each
is,
other,
it
isn't it?
is, but I feel like it's not gonna stay that way. We've already spoken about Tampa Bay versus Buffalo. I can imagine it will stay the same. Houston at Tennessee Titans. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't back the Titans against like my family playing in the back garden, so I'm gonna go Texans on that one.
Yeah, I also have to agree. Chicago at Minnesota.
That's a bit more of an interesting one. Um, I would probably I might go Chicago on that one. I think Caleb Williams is playing pretty good. Obviously, Roma Duns hasn't been playing that well, but I think the Bears they have a bit more of a future than potentially the Vikings do. I haven't been that impressed by JJ McCarthy yet. Jefferson's been quieter than you would kind of hope. So yeah, I'm gonna go for the Bears on that one.
That's annoying. Chicago were gonna be my pick. I mean, Carl Monungai is playing unbelievable. I feel like the Bears are starting to click for the first time in however long, probably since the 80s.
Mm.
Yeah, no, they're playing really well at the moment. I think it's going to be a really close game, actually. I think the Vikings still have potential, but annoyingly, yeah, I'm also going to go Chicago. Colston Loveland's been playing well, so yeah, I'd go Chicago. Green Bay at New York Giants.
Give me Green Bay. I don't think much explanation needed.
Yeah, we could just move straight on. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh, the Steelers.
Uh, Divisional game. I'm gonna go Steelers on that one. The Bengals look pretty horrible.
Yeah, yeah, they not not looking great for the Bengals recently.
No,
Is Joe Burrow out for the season officially, or is any
I believe
potential
so.
he comes in
Yeah,
late? No. Um,
I believe so. I think it or he. They said like he might be in back in time for the playoffs or something,
I-
but something tells me they're not going to get there, so
yeah,
I
no, I
wouldn't
feel
worry
like
too much.
there's no point rushing him back. You might as well just say, look, write
No.
the season off. We'll see you next year, sort of thing. Try and hit a good player in the draft,
Yeah,
something better than who was it, Shamar Stewart this year that
yeah. God,
took
that was
a
an
good
awful experiment, wasn't it?
good while. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go to Steelers, even though they lost to the Chargers last week. Probably gonna win. I'm gonna have to spice it up at some point. Chargers at Jacksonville. What are your
That's
thoughts?
an interesting game. Um, I would say losing Travis Hunter is not going to help. But I think I would have gone Chargers anyway for that one. I think the Chargers are playing some pretty good football this year, and I think anytime you've got Justin Herbert, I think you've got a good chance. So yeah, I'm going to go Chargers on that one.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because the Chargers, their O-line. Did you see the graphic
I did,
where all of
yes.
their rankings this season without Joe Alt, who's injured again, um,
Yeah,
and I think the Chargers, they're an interesting one. Obviously, it's a bit biased them being in the division um, of the Broncos, but I feel like then I don't think they're as good as what people are saying. I mean, Justin Herbert, yeah, don't get me wrong, quality quarterback, but definitely there to be got at with obviously the O line not playing as well as what they have had been at the start of the season. I feel like obviously got like Keenan Allen, um, solid solid receivers. Lab McConkey's obviously brilliant. Um, like I said, the Jaguars earlier, I said they might struggle in the next few weeks. And obviously them being my out team, I'm gonna go the Chargers. Um,
yeah.
then we've got last few. We spoke about the Seattle Rams game. We've both gone Seattle. Baltimore at Cleveland, I think is a pretty unanimous. Baltimore, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't see a world where Cleveland wins that one.
No,
If Lamar Jackson's playing, I don't see that.
yeah, no, not at all. Potentially, we could see a Shadur Sanders experiment at some point, maybe weeks to come, depending on how that game goes, how Dylan Gabriel goes. Um, then we've got Kansas City at Detroit. Not Detroit, Denver, sorry. We've obviously said about that. We obviously disagreed on one finally. Yeah, the Broncos win by 20. No, and then you got Detroit at Philadelphia. Again, we both went Detroit. Did you go Detroit?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then finishing off on Monday Night Football, we have the Cowboys at the Raiders. Who is your prediction?
Um, I think I'll go with Cowboys on that one. I think they're much better on both sides of the ball. I think, George Pickens, CD Lamb, Dak Prescott, like their offense, again, like it's one of those things where they should be a lot better than they are. But we say that every year about the Cowboys. And then picking up Quinn and Williams on defense, obviously losing Micah Parsons, but I think they've still got too much for the Raiders. I can't really see the Raiders doing anything. I mean, Ashton Genty's looked okay. Not particularly impressive considering his stock coming out of college, but yeah, I'd give that one to the Cowboys.
Yeah, Geno Smith has not had a good time in Las Vegas at all.
Not at all.
We've obviously spoke about the potential of there being a draft pick coming in quarterback there. It'd be hard to side with the Raiders, really. I feel like you've got to go Cowboys, but I'm gonna change to Minnesota against go for the Vikings against the Bears just to make it interesting. Although I do think that it's gonna be a close game regardless. Last time we played, it was a close game. The Vikings came back late, so I feel like yeah, I'll take them, and then that way we've disagreed on a few. But yeah, no, that brings us to the end of all the predictions. Yeah,
And I believe that brings us to the end of our second episode as well. So thank you everyone for watching. We'll link all our social medias and everything down in the description, and we will see you next time.